All right, I'm going to make a quick video demonstrating how I extract the ethanol out of my gasoline. The worst thing that ever happened to small engines and our lawn care equipment is ethanol. The EPA, the federal government, they decided that to be greener, we should use ethanol. But they overlooked all the emissions involved in producing the corn in the field that they make the ethanol with. Ethanol destroys rubber. Unfortunately, many of our small engines have lots of rubber components in their fuel systems. You put your two-stroke equipment up for the season. When you get it out, it's going to be full of rust, slime, jelly, mold, and it's not going to run. And since the EPA also decided that we don't need to be adjusting our carburetors, nothing ever runs right. So ethanol, you do not want in your small engines. You can go and find ethanol-free pumps, a little more expensive, or you can go down to the hardware store and buy two-cycle fuel, which is crazy expensive, something upwards of $20 a gallon. So since we don't live close to town or close to an ethanol-free pump, I just take a few minutes and extract the ethanol from my fuel. You might think it's unnecessary, you might think it's overly time-consuming, but when I put a two-stroke motor down with fuel in it, the next time I pick it up, it starts and runs. And this is how I do it. This is water. I filled this container to this line right here with water. Right here. The thing about ethanol is it miscible with oil, gasoline, and it's miscible with water. Water is immiscible with gasoline, which means it doesn't mix with gasoline. Ethanol will mix with gasoline. It will also mix with water. In fact, it prefers to mix with water, but it will mix with gasoline, which is where we get ethanol. The problem with ethanol is it would rather mix with water. So any moisture in the air, any moisture in your fuel tank, any droplets of water, it will suck right into your fuel and settle it on the bottom of your tank, your fuel bowl, your fuel lines, whatever. So you can do this on a bigger scale with bigger containers, but I don't use my chainsaws and my weed eater terribly often. So I only mix a gallon or two at a time. Let me see if I can pour some of this in there without making a huge mess. Probably won't, but who cares? A little spilled gas ain't gonna hurt nothing. Now I'm pouring this gasoline right in on top of that water. I'm gonna fill it a good bit of the way, but not all the way. Gasoline and water don't even want to mix. That's what makes this so easy and so possible and so quick. All right, we're gonna call that enough for now. Now this is a little container I made up for doing this. That I got a vent hose that runs to the other end of the bottle when I turn it upside down. But here's all we're gonna do. Water, fuel. You can see clearly the difference right there where it's at. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and shake the snot out of it. Let that pressure out of there. Shake the snot out of it. Let that pressure out, shake the snot out of it. The better you shake it, the better it works. Oh, look, all the gasoline and water is mixing. We must be ruining the gasoline and the water. I'm gonna do it one more time. Just because the better you shake it, the better it works. Yeah, I'm making a mess, who cares? Now watch what happens here. The fuel and the water separates itself pretty much right away. And you can watch it happen. I'm gonna shake this one just a little more. Why? Because I can. Don't cost nothing. Now we'll just watch it separate. Water to the bottom, fuel to the top. And since the ethanol prefers to mix with the water, that water mixes with the ethanol and pulls it right out of the fuel. Now you can see a clear line developing here. Up here's fuel, down here's water. This in between is the difference we got when we pulled the ethanol out of the fuel. So we'll give that a second to settle. You might throw it in a ultrasonic cleaner just to separate it quicker, but I don't. Doesn't take too long. I get a clean container. This up here, this is mostly water droplets. We're gonna knock it down with the fuel. And as soon as it gets into the fuel, it's gonna settle straight to the bottom. So give it a second. Now I'm going to take and dump the water off of it. That's where the vent hose comes in. Vent hose goes to the top, lets the air in, and I'm just gonna let the water out. Just gonna let all the water out. If a little fuel gets out, that's fine. We don't care. We can always separate fuel and water. Now that is straight fuel. Very little, if any, ethanol in there. Very little. So we take that and put it in our clean container. Which later I'll mix with 2-stroke oil and run in my 2-cycle motors. Now I don't do this for my lawnmowers. They've got Briggs & Stratton motors on them, and Briggs & Strattons will eat just about any fuel, but all the rubber components, the little rubber tips on the needle valve, which is why your cylinder fills with gasoline and eventually makes its way down into the sump and mixes with the oil. So we have to put a shutoff valve on every fuel line, on every riding lawnmower or push lawnmower to keep the fuel out of the sump. All right, now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some of that water we just poured off, and I'm gonna pour it back in here. Just about that much. And then we're going to put another bit of gasoline in there. This may seem like a lot of trouble, but when you go pull your 2-stroker out next time and want to use it, you'll be darn glad that it wasn't full of ethanol. It sucked all that moisture in your motor and completely destroyed it. Okay, it doesn't destroy the motor, but you'll be changing diaphragms and O-rings and everything else more than you ever needed to. All right. The water line's about where it was the last time we started. Now we're going to shake the snot out of it. Going to release that pressure. The better you shake it, the better it works. That ethanol would much rather mix with the water than the gasoline, which is why this is so easy to do. All right, now we'll watch that settle. Doesn't take long. You can sit and watch them come together. The water falls out of the fuel floats on top of the water. And now we've got the ethanol sucked out of it for the most part. Water droplets up here. Clean them off with the fuel, give them a minute to settle back down with the rest of the water. Doesn't take long, but you can see that's supposed to be 10% ethanol, and that's pretty close to 10% of that fuel from this line that we first drew to here. You're getting the best part of it out of there anyhow, if not all of it. Now you might set that a little longer. I don't see no need for it. And here we're going to dump the water off into the water, into the waste bucket, call it what you want. Let that water out of there. Again, if you let a little fuel out, it doesn't matter. You can actually feel the temperature difference when you get to the fuel. Now we're going to pour this off into the decontaminated fuel. Nothing worse for small engines than that ethanol. It destroys everything. Anything rubber, anything plastic, your diaphragms, your O-rings. I've been doing this for years and I've never had an issue with it. If there's any water at all still in that fuel, it'll gather right there in this particular bottle. And then we just do it again. Now we do that a couple more times, and I got enough fuel to run my weed eater and my chainsaws for quite a while. And we are going to do it one more time just because we can. More water in the bottle. And it doesn't take a bunch because that ethanol really likes to mix. With that water, which is why it's so bad for your small engines. Get rid of that ethanol. Go down and buy ethanol-free fuel if you got a pump. Go spend $22, $25 a gallon on hardware fuel. Or take a few minutes and do this. All right. We're going to do this one more time. Then we're going to try something else. It should work just as well, but if it doesn't, shake snot out of it. Let the pressure out. Shake snot out of it. Let the pressure out. Shake snot out of it. Making a little mess now. Now we'll let that separate. Shouldn't take too long. And it doesn't. going to shake it again. For whatever reason, there doesn't appear to be as much ethanol in this particular kind of gas as usually there is. But it will definitely extract 90–95% of it out, maybe more. I'm not a chemist, so I can't really check it. But I've been doing this for years and I don't have problems with my small engines running. All right, now it's separated. Knock them water droplets out of the top. Let them settle for a second. And that'll be long enough. It really doesn't take long. Now we're going to take this out of the way and pour this one in with the rest of our de-ethanolized fuel. No, we're not. We're going to pour the excess water off before we do that part. Dummy. Sorry, it don't really matter. I didn't say I was going to do it well. I just said I was going to show you how to do it. All right, now you feel that cold gasoline, you know that's gasoline. Now we're going to pour the clean fuel in here. Get it over here where I can reach it. Whoops. Like I said, this particular bottle works real well for me because if there is any water still in there, it settles right into those two valleys. Now, in that amount of time, we've cleaned about 1 gallon of water. Fuel with water. Now we're going to try something new, something I haven't tried. Just for the heck of it, we're going to do it coarse. A little water in that milk jug. A little more water in that milk jug. And we'll dump some fuel in there. Because we're going to do a ½ gallon this time. I'm going to dump just a little more water in there. Why? Because I can. Doesn't matter. Let's see how this works. And we're going to shake the snot out of it. Release that pressure a little bit. Shake snot out of it. Release that pressure a little bit. Shake the snot out of it. Now we'll let that settle for a minute. Hopefully we'll be able to see it. I think we probably will. And see, that's considerably more water than was in there when we started. Give that just a minute to settle. Get the water droplets off the top of the container. Give that a second to settle. we got a pretty good line there. Well, now I'm out of containers. So what I'm going to do, you can see the line. I'm going to pour this into here a little bit. You don't have to worry about that water floating up and coming out of there until you get close to the water. That's a full gallon of fuel we just now cleaned up. Now I dumped my water bucket, put the rest of this fuel in. Oh, but you're mixing fuel and water. It doesn't matter. Fuel and water don't mix. All we have to do is to be a little careful how we pour it off. And that water will stay in the container. And if you think you might got a little water mixed in with your fuel, just don't empty your fuel tank, fuel can all the way. That water will stay in the bottom of it. I don't even worry about it because I don't hardly get any water in my fuel when I do this, even though it seems like you would. Now I can easily do half a gallon at a time with this milk jug, but I don't do it that way. I just take a few more minutes and use my little bottle there. 3 or 4 rounds, and I got a gallon, and a gallon will run a chainsaw or weed eater a pretty good while. And then you can leave that fuel in there all winter. And you don't have to worry about it gumming up the works. You could add fuel additive, but truth is, fuel additives only work marginally. You get the ethanol out of there, come that spring, your 2-strokers still run. Now I'll mix 2-cycle oil with both of these and they'll be ready to run.